Hello and welcome back. My name is John, the Millennial Therapist, and this is my channel, That's Not Okay. Today, I'm going to talk about why so many men today are weak and feminine and how feminism and women made that possible. This one is for the ladies. As of 2026, there are countless articles, mostly written by millennial and Gen X women, bemoaning the state of masculinity and the quality of men. Zoomers can't write or read very well, nor do they possess the attention span for it, so their complaints are largely confined to Instagram and TikTok reels. The way the ladies tell it, it is entirely the fault of men, as usual, and women have been wholly let down, ever the victims. But anyone with his head screwed on straight, or at the very least, who has been sort of paying attention while being only half sober this last quarter century, will know that in fact, men have become precisely what left wing women have always claimed they wanted them to become, like women. It's funny though, because these lefty ladies, despite saying one thing, have always demonstrated their extreme indecision and insecurity on the subject in their entertainment choices. While saying out loud they want a sensitive, emotionally in touch, and vulnerable man who will cry on their shoulders, they still fantasize to the 50 Shades type novels and drool over the stoic, benign psychopathy of male protagonists in films or shows played by actors like Keanu Reeves, Alan Ritchson, and Jason Statham. Indeed, when watching the barely coherent shorts produced by enthusiastically entitled and narcissistic Zoomer girls, it seems they might even have given up the pretense entirely, or they're all just too stupid to realize they've given the game away. They will out and say they want a 6'5", tatted out, drug dealing convict boyfriend, while then claiming elsewhere that men don't do enough emotional labor. Men that do emotional labor, ladies, by definition, have no machismo. And convicts, if they knew what emotional labor was, would avoid it on principle. Let's indulge in some boomer style in my day talk, shall we? When I was growing up, it still wasn't cool to be gay, and being an outspoken atheist was considered edgy. Normies had no idea what trans was, and Democrats unironically used gay slurs still. Men and women liked each other then. There was no intergender competition, and as there clearly is today, in which a large swath of women actually take gleeful pride in claiming to be put upon. And there were, of course, signs of this. The spark had taken, so to speak, but the fire hadn't yet spread. There was still a lot of hope in America at the time, and literally no one thought the idea of enforcing laws against illegal immigration was controversial, including mainstream Democrats like the Clintons or Sanders. And so here we are, a world of still mostly normal people, sort of like a guy who doesn't know he has stage 1 cancer, but will find out only after it has metastasized. At this time, men were still expected to impress. Biologically and evolutionarily, men already find women attractive. They do not need to be convinced. For men, it is enough to just see a woman. But for women, there's nothing inherently attractive about a man. Men must prove themselves. Women are attracted not to the mere physical embodiment of the male, but to what he can do. Male value, then, is by definition a matter of achievement, or at least potential. While female value is timeless, male value is a matter of contexts. In other words, the less capable a man is, the less attractive he becomes. So it makes sense then that as women have grown more independent, less reliant on men, that female standards should change. It also makes sense that men would change, given that there are increasingly fewer incentives to achieve. In the same way that prior to the modern Western democracy, women took on all the risk in a sexual liaison with a man, now it is the other way around. Men have no guarantees. They have no secure rights to their children, born or not. Marriage is little more than a contract that will, in most cases, benefit the woman. And, excuse me, there's no status any longer associated with marriage or family making. I said earlier there became fewer incentives to achieve, referring to men. This is because, driven by the desire for sex and the status conferred by establishing a family, men were compelled at an earlier time to mature and, for lack of a more elegant phrase, get their shit together as quickly as possible. But after the sexual revolution, free love, as it was then called, made it possible to get sex regardless of status or achievement and free of any commitments. From the male perspective, it became a kind of why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free situation. You don't need to save your pennies for something that has become a handout. This pretty effectively describes the incredible crisis of male maturity we see today. The surge of man boys has been growing exponentially since the boomers, with Gen Z the latest and largest batch. I'm no expert, but something tells me that if we had a time machine, we would find that 100 years ago, 14-year-old boys had greater self sufficiency than most men in their 20s today. As for women, they embraced it. They voted for it. They celebrated it. They congratulated themselves on their sexual liberation, or some might call it promiscuity. They could have shameless premarital sex, abort any unwanted babies, and call it feminist and heroic at the end of the day. And best of all, should they decide to get married, they could just end it on a whim, walking away with effectively full custody of the kids and half or more of the goods. To sum it all up, all the freedom and none of the responsibility or sacrifices. Now consider this. That is just one half of the story. The second half includes a decades-long propaganda campaign to demonize anything remotely masculine or male-centered while celebrating uncritically anything and everything feminine. This also involved brainwashing adolescent boys into the belief that to become a good man, it meant deferring to women in all things. Never mansplain, or in other words, never correct a woman. Get enthusiastic consent, or in other words, beg a woman for sex, and maybe get it down in writing too. Be mindful of manspreading, or in other words, try to be as small and inconsequential as possible. Your mere presence is offensive. Believe all women. In other words, women are never wrong and men always are. And of course, women are absolutely and in all ways the equal of men. But despite this, you'll still need to pay for dinners and do any and all heavy lifting in life. Is it really any wonder that after all that, men are what they are today in the West? Hardly. The reality is, while only men are ultimately responsible for the sorry state of their image and behavior in America today, it cannot be ignored that women have gleefully contributed to it. And now that the American man is precisely where American women want him, rather, that is out of the way, these same ladies appear disappointed. They are disappointed because the very qualities that make men attractive to women are the same qualities that make men difficult to control. You see, American women want to have their cake and eat it too. They want a man who is somehow both dangerous and daring, but also tame. Where have all the cowboys gone indeed? Well, they were all sent to that sexual harassment prevention seminar. And after that, they had a diversity event to attend. And before all that, there were mothers and teachers and media haranguing them about how toxic they are. And well, voila. Here we are, ladies. There is a reason why, in reality, conservative men are so much more masculine than leftist ones. It is because leftist men emulate women with their consensus oriented, anxiety centered, neurotic, safety first approach to life, while conservative men, excluding politicians, tend toward classically masculine values of rugged individualism, including freedom and self sufficiency over safety. So, ladies, the reason why you can't find no real man, even though you keep claiming you don't need no man, is because you told them all to act more like women. And they, like idiots, listened. And that is not okay. Stay tuned for the next video. And thanks for listening.